In the midst of our Amidah, we take a moment to offer a Mishaberach, a prayer of healing for all those who are in need of wholeness in their lives, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, v'Yivarech v'Yirpeh et hacholim ha'eleh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yamalei Rachamim Alehem, L'chachalimam u'l'ripotam u'l'chachazikam u'l'chacholyotam, v'yishlach lehem mehera refuah shlema. B'toch she'ar hacholim, refuat hanefesh u'refuat haguf, hashta ba'avala u'lizman kariv, v'nomar, Amen. May the one who brought blessings to our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to our mothers Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bring the blessing of health to those who are ill. May the Holy One, blessed source of life and healing, sustain and strengthen them with compassion, and restore them to full health without delay. For all who struggle against illness, let renewal of spirit and renewal of body come soon. And together we say, Amen. We take a few moments to offer our own silent, private prayer.
Good Yontif, everybody. L'Shana Tova. I hope everybody's fast is off to a good start. I also hope the saints are off to a good start. As all good Jews, we are all, of course, not looking at the score until tomorrow. On this Kol Nidre, as I begin the sermon, I want to speak about a book that was one of my favorite children's books as a child. It's called The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. I know many of you have probably read it as well, but in case you haven't, here's a quick summary. The book is a story about a young boy and a tree, and in his childhood, the boy plays with the tree. He climbs on its branches, he sits under its shade, he eats the tree's apples, and he carves me plus T into the trunk, and this all made the tree very happy. But as the boy grew into a man, he started to return to the tree only when he needed something. He would come to take apples to sell. He even comes with a young lady and carves me plus YL into the tree, which now as an adult I know stands for young love. The tree gives the boy his branches so he can build a house. He gives it its trunk so it can make a boat, and with every stage of giving, the tree was happy. And finally, the boy returns as a tired old man, and the tree is sad because it has no branches for swinging, no apples for eating, and no materials to give. The boy says not to worry, for he's too old to swing. He doesn't have the teeth to bite into an apple. He just needs a place to sit. The tree, which has given so much, is now a mere stump, but it's the perfect place for the boy to sit, and for that, the tree is happy. I have to admit that even rereading the story gave me the same shvilkies I had as a child. The sweet, selfless tree gives all it has for this boy. But as an adult and as a rabbi, I have to say, this is an awful story. It's horrifying. It's a terrible story with an awful message, and it's the exact opposite of the message I want to offer on this Kol Nidre. Not that I don't appreciate the sense of giving displayed by this tree. It's certainly selfless and admirable. Giving and being selfless, they are mitzvahs. But like all mitzvot, all commandments, there are strings attached. Let's turn now to the Torah. As Shel Silverstein was a Jew, let's assign a mitzvah to this book. Leviticus 19:18. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. The commandment that our rabbis agree is one of the most fundamental principles of our Torah. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love thy neighbor. It's one of the most widely known and largely misinterpreted texts of the Torah. It is a two-part commandment, and one part should not exist without the other. Love your neighbor, that's part 1. Love yourself is part 2. The giving tree loved the boy without question, but it did so at the expense of its own life. When we're on an airplane and we receive the instructions from the flight attendant for when there's a sudden change in cabin pressure, we're told to secure our own masks before assisting our children. Every parent who hears this emotionally bristles at the idea that they would help themselves before their child. But our intellect tells us that if we do not secure our own masks, we will be helpless to support our child. This is the essence of this mitzvah. We are commanded to take care of ourselves. And we do not do so to be selfish, but because the healthier and stronger we are, the more of a support we can be for others. The amount of love we can give to our neighbor is contingent on the amount of love we give to ourselves. We are experiencing perhaps the most unique and trying 6 months of our lives. We are being tested physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. Our sense of normalcy has been upset dramatically. We must take our guidance from the Torah and take care of ourselves. This is a sacred act. Self-care is prayer. We're taught in the book of Genesis, in the story of creation, that the first gift God gives us is life. Our bodies are a temple. Every act of self-care is prayer, showing God our appreciation for this gift. Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, advises, be patient with yourself. Self-growth is tender. It's holy ground. There is no greater investment. Self-care is a blessing. It's a blessing that we all deserve. Judaism and Buddhism agree on a number of tenets, so I'll quote Buddha as saying, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Self-care is an act of mercy and loving kindness. The book of Proverbs teaches, the merciful man does good to his own soul. The Talmud says this refers to Hillel the elder, who at the time he was departing from his students would walk with them. They said to him, Rabbi, where are you walking to? He said to them, to fulfill a mitzvah. They said to him, and what mitzvah is this? He said to them, to bathe in the bathhouse. And they said, but is this really a mitzvah? Is it really a commandment? And he said to them, yes. Just like regarding the statues of kings that are set up in theaters and circuses, the one who is pointed over them bathes and scrubs them, and they give him sustenance. And furthermore, he attains status with the leaders of the kingdom. I, who was created in the divine image and form, as it is written, for the image of God he made man, even more so. Over the past 6 months, we as a nation have experienced loss in countless ways. At the time of this recording, over 200,000 people have died from COVID-19. The very nature of this recording is evidence of how different our world has become. In our community at Gates of Prayer, we were unable to come together for Passover or Shavuot to celebrate our confirmation students or to honor our retiring cantorial soloist in the way we had planned. Individually, in our community, weddings have been postponed or re-envisioned. Days that people have been dreaming of their entire lives were upended. We have experienced loss in our communities. Dealing with the death of a loved one is always extremely hard, but we've had to do it without the loving embrace of our friends and families. We've had to homeschool our children or send them to schools where they have to wear masks and remain isolated from their friends in other classrooms. We've had to work virtually from home while attempting to be a parent at the same time. God knows we deserve some self-care. But our tradition tells us we don't just deserve it, we are commanded to seek it. We have to be strong because the people in our lives depend on us. We have to care for ourselves because offering virtual care and connecting over a computer screen can be exhausting. And we have to prepare ourselves for when this is all over. The day we are free to resume our world as we know it cannot come soon enough. But when that day comes, we have to be prepared to be there for one another as we emerge back into society. We have to have the strength to reaffirm our commitment to our families and our communities. We have to be a full, lush tree that bears fruit and offers shade. We have to share these gifts with those in need without worry of running out. So while many High Holy Day sermons conclude with the hopes that we all go out and make an impact on the world around us, I'm going to ask us tonight to go home and take care of ourselves. Take time every day to do something that enriches your mind, your body, and your soul. Take moments of quiet comfort. Take the opportunity to evaluate what you need to be a healthy person, and do so knowing that you are caring for yourself for the most selfless reason possible. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. When this pandemic is over, when the hurricane season over, when the year 2020 is over, our community is going to need an outpouring of abundant love. And the love we can give to one another is contingent upon the love we have for ourselves. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel perhaps said it best. Self-care is not just an act for us, but it's an act that brings God's presence into this world. He wrote, "Why are we forbidden to make images of God? It is not because God is beyond all images, so that no image could possibly depict God. If that were the case, images would be harmless. God has an image, and that is you. You may not make the image of God because you are the image of God. The only medium in which you can make God's image is the medium of your entire life, and that is precisely what we are commanded to do. Everything you do, everything you say, each moment, and the way you use it are all part of the way you build God's image. To take anything less than a full living human being like a canvas or a piece of marble and call it the image of God would be to diminish God or to lessen God's image." The rabbis in the Talmud would later teach that we should all walk around with two notes, one for our right pocket and one for our left. One note says, "Kol ha'olam nivra bishvili." The other says, "Vanochi afar ve'efer." And there are times in our lives when we must pull these notes out and read them to ourselves. There are times where we reach into the right pocket and times when we reach into the left. The one in the left pocket says, "I am but dust and ashes," a reminder to be humble when we are at the top of the world. The one in the right pocket says, "The entire world was created for my sake." And at this time, in our world, we all must collectively reach for that note in our right pocket. The note reminding us that this world is a gift, we are a gift, and we deserve to be the best we can for one another. Let us read it and understand that we are the image of God in this world. It is our sacred obligation, blessing, and responsibility. May we find the strength to care for the gift of life that God has given us so that we can fulfill the commandment to be a blessing to one another. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. And let us say, Amen.
Lashana Tova. I'm Aaron Wolfson, and I'm honored to serve as the current president of Congregation Gates of Prayer. Almost exactly 1 year ago tonight, I had just returned from a successful, first-of-its-kind Rosh Hashanah service conducted by Rabbi Gerber, overlooking the Louisiana Superdome just prior to kickoff between the New Orleans Saints and the Dallas Cowboys. As we stood on a beautiful outdoor terrace wearing our Saints gear, sipping adult beverages, and standing unmasked, shoulder to shoulder, I could not have imagined how much things would change in 2020. I remember attendance was much lighter at the later service at the temple as our Saints faced and eventually beat the Cowboys on Monday Night Football from the Dome. It's too bad, really, because my speech that night was groundbreaking, and I just wish more congregants had been there to hear it. COVID-19 became real for us at Gates of Prayer as we had to make decisions about whether to close our Center for Early Childhood Education. After many phone calls, emails, research, the leadership decided to close our preschool for 2 weeks. We would eventually remain closed throughout the remainder of the school year. We've all experienced great change and uncertainty in the past 6 months or so. Some of us have lost jobs. We have struggled with childcare and supervising remote learning from home. We have worried about friends and loved ones who have contracted the virus. And some of us have had the misfortune to lose loved ones to COVID-19. We have no doubt been living through a once-in-a-generation pandemic that has rocked the majority of our institutions. The good news is, as a Jewish community as a whole, and as a synagogue, we have remained flexible, creative, and engaged as we provide for the spiritual nurturance of our congregational community. Rabbi Gerber and the rest of the clergy team quickly learned how to conduct virtual worship services streamed over multiple online platforms. Sometimes there were glitches, but for the most part, we were able to be together to pray. As the pandemic wore on, we shared a virtual Seder together, watched socially distanced drive-in movies from our parking lot, and now are embarking on an ambitious schedule of in-person and remote High Holy Day worship services that are truly cutting-edge and creative. I'd like to thank Rabbi Gerber, who has taken the lead on organizing our online and remote existence through the pandemic. With the technical assistance of our temple educator, Phil Gaethey, and the rest of the clergy, Rabbi Gerber has shown incredible leadership, calm, industriousness, and menschlichkeit. Thank you, Rabbi Gerber. Having had the privilege of watching the rabbi switch between 3 connected devices while reading Torah and playing the guitar, I now know the true meaning of multitasking. Speaking of rabbis, Assistant Rabbi Lexi Erdheim has had an amazing year of growth and continues to demonstrate her leadership during the pandemic. Leading the Social Action Committee Tzedek, Rabbi Lexi organized grocery delivery in conjunction with a nonprofit organization called the First 72 Plus. This group assists clients who have recently been released from incarceration in the critical days or hours after they get out of jail. Rabbi Lexi and her team have been doing bi-monthly deliveries to this fragile population. Following the social unrest and heated discussion around race this summer, Rabbi Lexi formed an anti-racist book club to learn, study, and hopefully improve the dialogue surrounding race in America. Her first book club meeting was attended by nearly 30 diverse members of the community and continues to meet monthly. Our 20s and 30s group Tribe has been active, both before COVID and after. I was able to attend a very successful Tribe-sponsored Purim Spiel, and know Tribe has done co-programming with Federations J Nola, as well as congregations Beth Shalom and B'nai Israel. Rabbi Lexi was honored by being chosen to speak on the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court and even did a flyover of the New Orleans area in an open cockpit airplane to offer prayers of healing. Perhaps her most impressive accomplishment is her successful application to secure a $50,000 nonprofit security grant program grant from FEMA to help upgrade temple security. We are blessed to have such a talented and dynamic assistant rabbi, and I am grateful and thankful for all she does. There have been a number of new additions to our congregational staff this year. After the retirement of our cantorial soloist, Tori May, the worship committee led by D.G. Lineato embarked on a national search for a new voice to lead us in prayer. After many Zoom interviews and impromptu auditions, we were lucky to hire our new cantorial soloist, Jordan Lawrence. Originally from New Jersey, Jordan developed a strong Jewish identity. She attended Jewish day school and founded a Jewish a cappella group at Tulane, where she graduated with a BFA in musical theater. Only having joined us a few months ago, Jordan has already made a big impact on the congregation. In addition to her vocal and choir director duties, Jordan is also functioning as our director of family engagement and will be working to support our young families as they find a place in their Jewish home. Welcome again, Jordan. We're thrilled to have you with us. There's also been a major new addition to our congregational family with the hiring of Jessica Klein Sintes as the director of our Center for Early Childhood Education. Melanie Blitz lovingly oversaw our nursery program for 15 years and recently decided to step down. A search committee chaired by Congregational Vice President Lane Cohen jumped into action. In the course of just 2 weeks, Lane convened an amazing committee, including parents, teachers, and other committed stakeholders, to produce a job description, advertise the job, and conduct a half-dozen interviews. In the end, we decided to go with the best candidate, who happened to be one of our own, Jessica Sintes. Jessica grew up at Gates of Prayer and has 2 children who currently attend our school. She comes to us most recently from the Metairie JCC, where she oversaw all summer camp programs. Jessica takes the reins of CC at an unprecedented time for educators. She has seamlessly implemented strict COVID-19 protocols that have impacted every facet of the school, from carpool drop-off to nap time. CC has now been open for a few weeks, and by all reports, the children are safe, healthy, and most importantly, learning again. Last year, during my Erev Rosh Hashanah speech, I announced the opening of the baby room to accommodate infants as part of our child care options. Under the supervision of Congregant Aaron Middleberg, construction is underway on what is now called the ICC, the Infant Care Center, and is on schedule to be open for business in January of 2021. Our temple educator, Phil Gaithy, has been extremely busy both before and during COVID. Phil was recently awarded the Stieg Award for Excellence in Jewish Education for his work on JFlex and COVID-19 education and entertainment. Aside from being the ad hoc IT specialist / Zoom producer / chief temperature taker at summer camp / driving force behind our drive-in movies, Phil has created a comprehensive learning experience for our religious school students during COVID. JFlex at Home is a totally virtual experience for students who are not comfortable with in-person learning opportunities. The first day of JFlex at Home is Sunday, October 11th. JFlex at CGOP is held at the synagogue, mostly outside canopies with social distancing and mask wearing. This will begin Sunday, October 18th. And finally, Phil created a hybrid JFlex at Home and CGOP for students and their families to pick and choose which events to attend in person or remotely. Phil, you have really stepped up and been a stable presence in the changing congregational landscape. You're quick to volunteer, ready with a joke, not always funny, but ready, and are a joy to work with. Finally, I'd like to update you on some other initiatives I introduced in my speech last year. I described goals for updating our Board of Trustees governance policies and procedures, which had not been formally updated for nearly 15 years. I launched a governance committee and plan to kick off the work with a board retreat to be facilitated by Rabbi Lou Feldstein of Dynamic Change Solutions. As with many plans, our retreat was delayed by COVID, but was recently held virtually at the end of August. The governance committee was revived and is now being chaired by Chip Mann. Drawing on momentum from the retreat, the committee is hard at work devising a comprehensive board orientation packet and beginning discussions on how to update our governance structure to reflect who we are and who we want to be as a congregation. Another important committee was revived in the past year, and is doing amazing work on behalf of the congregation. Chaired by husband and wife super team Ann and Rick Streifer, the cemetery committee has pushed forward. After conducting a comprehensive needs assessment of both our Joseph Street and Canal Street cemeteries, the committee agreed on a list of priorities that was presented to the executive committee. I am pleased to report that work has begun at Joseph Street to clean and maintain the Plotkin Pavilion, and congregant Mark Dahlman is leading the charge by providing routine repairs and establishing a much-needed maintenance schedule. At Canal Street, work has begun to research property boundaries and clarify ownership, which is shared with Hever Tillam and Beth Israel. Some initial diagnostic work is being done to assess drainage problems, and quotes are being bid for repairs to the cement sidewalks and other areas of the cemetery. I would like to thank Rick and Ann and their committee for their dedicated work to preserve and maintain these holy spaces. Before I conclude, there are many people who deserve to be thanked and acknowledged. I'd like to thank Temple Administrator Jack Schulman for his efforts to make sure the lights stay on and everything runs smoothly. The professional Temple staff of Leslie Miller, Michelle Basham are always ready to assist and help keep the doors open. I would invite you all to join me in welcoming our new facility manager, William Bazio. Bill started with us several months back and has already proven himself to be a proactive self-starter who is also always ready with a friendly smile. Special thank you to housekeeping supervisor Jared Sanders, housekeeper Mary Turner, and Deshaun Agnew, who's on our maintenance staff. Thanks for all you do. I'd also like to thank the members of the Congregational Board. You are all important ambassadors for our congregation and have made yourselves available for special meetings and dedicated your time to serve the synagogue. Thanks also goes out to Claudia Shabbatai, president of the Sisterhood, and Chip Mann, president of the Brotherhood. Our auxiliaries remain strong and active, and I thank you and your members. Special thanks go out to the executive committee, including Executive Vice President Derek Kaplan, Vice President Lane Cohen, Vice President Jonathan Fowler, Vice President in charge of membership Diana Mann, Financial Secretary Rella Zapletal, Treasurer Dr. Shel Wolfson, Recording Secretary Barry Bronston, and Immediate Past President David Dulitz. Thanks for all your support and dedication to the synagogue and your wise counsel. Again, I'd like to thank our clergy, Rabbi Gerber, Rabbi Lexi, cantorial soloist Jordan Lawrence. Thank you all for the endless hours of preparation and work that goes into leading us in High Holy Day worship. It's truly an honor to share the virtual Bima with you. Finally, I would like to thank my wife Dahlia for her continued support and encouragement. Dahlia knows how deeply I care about this congregation and never complains when I have yet another evening Zoom meeting or am otherwise occupied with temple business. You're an amazing partner, a brilliant psychologist, a wonderful mother, and a great friend. I love you. To my children, Sasha and Micah, thank you for your patience and understanding. As you know, this work I do is ultimately for you, so that you may have a place to worship, to celebrate life's joys, to mourn life's lows, and safely express your Jewish identity. From my family to yours, I wish you all Lashana Tova, a sweet and prosperous new year.
We continue on page 82 with the section of our worship called Vidui, the Confession of Sins. We rise together once again, page 82. We continue with our confession on page 82 at the bottom with a shamnu, our confession of sins that spans from A to Z, recognizing that we all have our faults and our flaws. It is customary to tap our chests as we do this to signify that we are taking this vidui, this confession, to heart. Again, this is not a place to injure ourselves, so a light tap is just fine. We'll join together at the bottom of page 82. Oy, 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 oy. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. Oy, oy.